more people, then we'll get started. All right, so let's get started. So welcome to our second annual Code Blue team meeting. All right, I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see my PowerPoint here. Okay, so can everybody see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll get started. So yesterday, a student emailed me who was on our Code Blue team and just asked if we could quickly review CPR because I know that we only get the training every 2 years. So sometimes it's good to have a little bit of a refresher. So we'll just watch this quick video just as a review for how to perform CPR. Oh, there we go. Oh, why isn't it loading?
CPR can be a scary thing. When a patient experiences a cardiac arrest outside the hospital and a bystander witnesses it, the most important thing that needs to occur right away is that 911 needs to be called. Look to see if there's an automatic external defibrillator that's available on scene. The next thing that you need to do is deliver chest compressions. Don't worry about doing rescue breaths. The former guidelines used to recommend doing this, but current evidence shows that the patient's survival will be maximized if you're able to do compressions only. You want to put your hands directly over the patient's breastbone. You want to be delivering compressions at a rate of 100 to 120 beats per minute. A good way to remember how to keep tune with your chest compressions is to remember the song Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. So you want to keep doing chest compressions, wait for 911 to get there. By remembering these basic points and you stepping in to help, you could save someone's life.
Okay, so there's your review. I also included these little charts if you want to print them out or whatever. It goes over adult CPR and child CPR. So now let's review yesterday's homework. So if you can pull out yesterday's homework that you worked on, I had you identify different parts of the AED. So you could see the first part here is the on and off switch. This is the shock button, the defibrillation pads package, the defibrillation pads which are in the package, and then the pads connector. So what are the two sizes of the pads with the AED? And you could just yell it out.
Child and adult. Pediatric and adult, yep.
Very good. So we have the adult pads, and then we have the child and infant pads. So you can see the adult pads are yellow, and the child and infant ones are blue. And then I just had information of when you should use the adult pad versus the infant one. So the adult one is for children 8 years or older or over 55 pounds. And the infant and children ones are for children under 8 years or less than 55 pounds. Now, why do you think we would need pediatric pads in a high school? You could just yell out some answers.
Our parenting class.
Parenting class, very good. Anything else?
Any visitors? Or
Sporting events.
Okay, very good. So we have sporting events that happen in the school, and little siblings can come. Sometimes when the middle school has their evacuation, they come to the high school, which happened either last year or the year before. And then the number one in my head was definitely the parenting students that we have there. All right, so that was yesterday's review. So now we're going to begin today's lesson, which is our Code Blue team. So we're just going to start with this video.
It wasn't easy. It absolutely was the scariest day of my life. And Steve and Papa will never forget what happened during track practice at Pascack
chest, and the machine took over.
Shock will be delivered in 3, 2, 1. Shock delivered.
Anthony's heart began to beat. Papa recalls watching the ambulance pull away. A coach walked over.
He says, "Hey, Papa, I think you just, helped save that kid's life." And that's when the emotions kind of set in, and you want to start crying with the baby at that point,
He saved my son's life, and they'll be my heroes for the rest of my life.
Most likely I wouldn't be talking to you right now if there wasn't an AED at Pascack Hills.
Fortunately for Anthony, Pascack Valley already had several AEDs, says Superintendent Eric Gunderson.
We were ahead of the curve. We've had these in place for probably the last 5 to 7 years. We've increased the number of AEDs dramatically now in anticipation of the new law.
That law's named for Janet Zelinsky, who died in 2006 when her heart stopped after cheerleading practice. Every school in New Jersey must be outfitted with AEDs and staff trained to use them by September 1st. For many districts, it meant significant expense. West Milford spent $30,000.
So this past school year, we did purchase an additional 11 AED devices. Some of the other stuff that went into that planning is also where you're going to locate and put your device.
So how many units does a school district need? Well, that depends. For example, this is a middle school gymnasium. Now, according to the AED manufacturers, a unit should be located within 90 seconds of every single gym. And here it is, right on the wall. Schools also bought portables that staff can bring to athletic practices and events. When the cross-country team goes out running for practice, they'll buddy up, so no one's alone.
So that, God forbid, anything happens, whether a student gets hurt from running, has a broken leg or something like that, or their heart stops, that we can get help back from the school district very quickly.
It saves lives.
Because they gave me back my baby.
Anthony's back in training this semester for football. In Montvale, I'm Brenda Flanagan, NJTV News.
Okay, so that video is obviously a few years old, but I thought that's good for you guys to see a real life example in New Jersey when the AED was needed, CPR was needed. Hopefully that never happens to us, but we are here just in case it does happen, okay? So just to remind you, so this is the Code Blue team, and it's in response to Janet's Law and sudden cardiac arrest in students and athletes. And this is us making a plan to prepare, everybody for if we had to do CPR or use the AED. So some of the requirements of the Code Blue team is that all public and private schools, K through 12, have to have an AED, which we have several, so we're good there. We have to have at least
Lauren, I think you cut off. I can't hear anything.
throughout the school directing people, which we have, and there's an AED within 90 seconds of the gym, which we have. So now let's welcome our new members. So we have Matt Creighton, Don Rilla, Dan Mendoza, and Robert Seavey. Welcome to the Code Blue team. And then our returning members, Mr. Pastorino, Mr. Carrasio, Mrs. Wandris, Mr. Rotella, Mr. Bergando, myself, Mr. DeVogue, Mr. McFadden, Mr. Viteri, and Ms. Bornsing. So our wonderful Code Blue team. All right, so just a recap of last year. We got new AEDs for the class trips. A new AED for the class trips. So for example, if students leave JFK High School, for example, to go to Merrill Park, I know sometimes the science classes like to do that. We actually have an extra AED that the teacher can take with them for the walk there. We did have a group of students who went to Washington, D.C. That was with Miss Jackie Jones, and she did have the AED with her while they were walking around. We also put the new Code Blue signs by all of the phones. Last year, we did have 2 non-Code Blue Code Blues. So we did have one student who fell down the stairs, and they did call Code Blue for that. Thankfully, she was okay. And then we did have the seizure in the hallway, which is not technically a reason for a Code Blue. However, in that situation, I thought it was great that it was called because we had a lot of help. We were able to take care of the student, manage everything. So those are the 2 scenarios. And then we also had 2 mock Code Blues in the school, which we got a lot of positive feedback about, which I was very excited with. Areas for improvement. Just one thing I saw last year, if there is a mock Code Blue or a real Code Blue, if you're passing an grab one, don't assume that somebody is already there with one. So if you're running, you pass one, just grab the AED out of the box. And also we found out that some of the rooms, like the science copy room, can't hear some announcements. So I know that teacher did let Mr. Baginski know, so hopefully we're following up with that. So now we're going to talk about where our AEDs are so that everyone's familiar. So the first one is across from the gym doors on the wall outside of my office. Then we have one in the girls' locker room, which Mrs. DiLeonardo uses for fitness walking. We have one in the field house on the baseball side. So this is one of our AEDs that's used for athletics and goes off campus. We also have one on the golf cart, which is the one Alexis always carries with her. We have one in the trainer's office, in the field house, which is our second AED that we have for off-campus events and athletics. We have one on the wall outside of room 105 across from stairwell B, and this is the one by the cafeteria. We have one that always stays in the field house, and it's on the football side of the field house. And then the new one that we got last year is for off-campus activities. Like I said, for example, going to Merrill Park. This one stays in my office, but we do have a system, which I'll remind the teachers again this year, to sign it out so that they can use it if they leave the school campus. This is the new sign that we put up last year, what to do if there's a code blue, so teachers can follow that. And we also have this to remind teachers that a code blue automatically initiates a shelter in place, and what does that exactly mean? Then we also have classroom procedures. So for example, if a faculty member is CPR certified, they should begin CPR and have somebody else call a code blue and call over the overhead. If the faculty member is not CPR certified, they should be the one calling the code blue and then waiting for one of the responders, which would be us, to arrive. This is specifically for physical education, what they should do if there's a code blue, because they will leave the gym sometimes and go to the field. So this is their rules that they should follow. And then this one is specifically for office staff, what their roles and responsibilities are during a code blue. And then this is for us. Now it says responder 1, responder 2. It does not have to be in this order, but these are different things that should be going on by the team. So obviously I would be responding to the emergency and begin CPR. However, last year during one of the mock codes, which I was very excited to see, 2 of the teachers actually beat me to the scene, which is great. If you're close, you're right there, and you can begin CPR even sooner, that's fantastic. So if you're the first one there, you can go ahead and begin CPR. So it would have me CPR, the next responder. Another responder can remove students from the room and direct them to another classroom. Another person can assist the EMTs. Somebody else should be recording stuff, keeping time. And then we have somebody who's also communicating with the main office to let them know what's going on. This is a list of all of our CPR certified staff at JFK. So we do have a good amount, which is amazing. And then some new things, and I know this was a big one that a lot of people had questions about, COVID-19 and CPR. So this is what they're recommending if you are, concerned about possibly catching COVID-19, but this person does need CPR.
Cutting out again, Lauren.
Wearing a mask, but for example, for sports, they're not required to wear a mask all the time. That would be a situation where, maybe we would want to put a mask on the victim. Then for step 3, we would be performing hands-only CPR. So they're taking out, the mouth piece of it if you're concerned about COVID-19. And then step 4, still using the AED. Some other things that are new for this year, we just want to remind staff more about that new AED that we have that they could take off campus. And per Dr. Massimino, he wants everybody on the Code Blue team to get staff training for the Stop the Bleed, which you will get more information about. We did actually have that scheduled in March, but then COVID-19, we quarantined, that happened. So we do have to get a new meeting date for this year. I'm going to keep updating this, but we do have a list of where all of our Code Blue team staff members anybody has any questions, let me know. During this school year, if you have any questions or if something comes up and you think about it, definitely email me so we can address it as soon as possible. We don't have to wait for another meeting. Okay, so do we have any questions or anything? No?
Do you need me to email where am teaching the blocks so you have it for pay records?
If you want to, you can, but I still have to just go through the list. I was waiting till, we knew exactly where everybody was going to be in the building to update it. But if you know, yeah, if you want to email me, that's great. Thank you. Anything else? Okay. So definitely expect that we will have 2 mock code blues because that's the requirement throughout the year. But, definitely, like we saw last year, there could be other circumstances where a code blue is called and we are expected to respond as if it were a code blue. Okay. All right.
A quick question, Lauren.
Yeah, of course.
So, what's the requirement for, who is everyone on the team supposed to respond, or if you're the farthest from that point of the school that you could be, are you not supposed to respond at that point? What?
That's a good question. So actually, if you have a class and you're the only teacher in that classroom, you need to actually bring your classroom to another classroom, take care of your students first, and then respond, okay? So your students are the first priority. If you can have somebody, maybe there's a teacher in the hallway that can watch your class so you can run, take care of your class, and then respond to the code blue, okay? But for example, I know Mr. DeVoe often does team teaching. So he was, last year when we had one of the mock code blues, he was able to leave right away and get there. And he was actually one of the people I was thinking of that responded before I even got there. Okay.
So if you can, you're expected to respond no matter where in the school.
Yes. Yeah. Never assume. It's better that there's too many people there than not enough. Because somebody could be absent, maybe somebody didn't hear or whatever. If you hear it and you can get there, get there. It's better that there's too many people. That's a good question. Anything else? Okay, so I just have a post test for you guys to complete, so I will put that in the chat. And then once you're finished with that and submit it, you can sign out. Okay? Thank you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Vital.
You're welcome.